But you said they're non-physical, so what other options are there?
I don't know.
You
Abstract.
don't know?
Abstract.
So wait. You're telling me about what they are and aren't, and arguing against them, but you don't even know what they are.
Well, this is actually one of the things that I find most laughable about apologists, and I won't even ask for you to not take this personally. Once again, you get to this point where I don't know is such a bafflingly unacceptable answer to you. This is the colossal arrogance of the theist position, that they're unable to say, I don't know, maybe we'll find out someday. And instead of accepting an I don't know, they just go ahead and leap to the first thing that seems most reasonable to them.
If I were in a formal debate with you out there in Austin, Texas, and we're debating this issue, and you said, after I asked you, tell me what the nature and the essence of these things are, and you said, I just don't know. I'm going to come back again and say, in a formal debate where we're supposed to be using logic, you're telling me what logic is not, but you can't even tell me what it is, in any way, shape, or form.
No, that's not in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about within the context of what you're talking about. I already told you they're non-conceptual. Now you want me to start going through all the other possibilities and eliminate those as well, and I can't do that, and neither can anybody else.
I'd like that.
Well,
I can do it for you.
I'd like you to prove that God exists without a fallacy.
They're obviously not physical because we can't weigh them, see them, touch them, measure them.
You're asserting that something is either physical or conceptual, and that there are no other options.
Let's go with another possibility. Do you have another third option? Seriously, what else? In existence, some of these are physical, or I know that thoughts exist. My thoughts exist. I can't freeze them or weigh them.
But that's
so
existence.
I know that's a conceptual reality, and there's a physical reality. What other reality have you got to offer?
Okay, how does God exist? Because that's existence within reality, and we're talking about something that we've already defined as transcending reality.
Okay, can you answer the question, though? Can you have a third option, either conceptual existence or physical existence? Is there a third option that you're aware of? I'm not aware of any other. Please correct me. Maybe I just don't know. I haven't read enough.
What I'm asking is about what you mean when you say exists, because when we talk about exists,
that which is,
we're talking about essentially within the bounds of reality, and that includes concepts.
There you go. Concepts and physical nature.
But that existence is subject to those absolutes, which is why we agreed in the first place that they are transcendent, that they are not contingent upon any matter, any space, or any time. The flaw here, one of the other flaws that I didn't quite get to address, is in the bigger scope of the argument, which is you're asking, why are the laws of absolute what they are? And why is a question regarding causality? And causality is necessarily temporal, and we have already excluded something because we're talking about something that transcends time. You're asking something that is essentially nonsense.
No.
Okay, well, that's the best answer I've ever heard.
If we only have two possibilities to account for something, I'm not saying there's only two in this situation. I'm saying if there is.
I agree.
If you only have two and one of them is negated, then the other one is validated automatically.
And prove to me that there are only two possibilities, because the only thing you've done so far is say, I only can think of two, can you think of others? You haven't proved that there are only two.
I don't know of any other, and I'm with you, you're being correct here, that haven't you haven't proven that there's any other, but this is it. There is either the physical and non-physical, there's either conceptual or non-conceptual. You also are required to offer me a third option. If I say these are the two options, I'm not required to prove the exclusion of all others, because it'd be like you saying, don't ask me to prove God does not exist. I'm asking you to demonstrate what does exist, a third option. If you don't have a third option, then you cannot say that the logical absolutes are not conceptual. You could say they are, but you cannot logically hold to that position if you cannot give me rationally a third option.
No, I don't need a third option because I went with the second option. The option was they were either conceptual or not conceptual, and I'm going with not conceptual because conceptual makes them
physical.
Because no. Because
what's the third option?
Conceptual makes them contingent upon thought. That's the problem.
What's the third option?
You're asking for what's the third option between two things that aren't two options of this, where there's a third or a fourth. It's like I'm saying they're either red or blue, and you're saying okay, it's not red and it's not apple. So what is it? That's what you're doing.
Category mistake. Category mistake. I'm not doing that. If there are only two possibilities, give me a third possibility. In all seriousness, I'm not angry. I'm curious. Is there a third possibility? Conceptual reality or physical reality?
I don't accept your premise that the two possibilities, what I said was something is either conceptual or not conceptual. And you said that non-conceptual equates to physical. And I'm saying that this is one of those things, maybe the only thing, whatever, that is not conceptual. That is also
then what is
not
it?
Physical. It is.
You can't offer me a third option. Logic requires.
The third option. The third option is neither.
Neither?
It is neither conceptual nor physical.
So you jump into nothingness to defend your position?
No. I'm saying they are what they are. This is an essential. And now, Matt, after 45 minutes or so, I can't count the number of times I've repeated this. So we're going to stop because there are other callers. There are callers that are on hold, and I'll be more than happy to talk about this more in email, or you can call in another time. For those that are interested, you can go to carm.org. The website's actually listed up on the corner of your screen.
Or call me up. Call my show.
Okay.
I have a radio show 5 days a week in the Boise area, streamed over the internet. We can talk about this. And if you come up with a third option, let me know. I'd love to hear it. What is it?
I'm not necessarily sure what the purpose of that would be because I identified a fallacy of structure in 6.1, and your only response is no, it's not.
No, that's not the only response.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not your only response. Your second response was you need to give me another option.
No,
I don't. No, I'm sorry, I'm putting your ass on hold now because I want to get this out and I want to move on. Thanks for the call, Matt, and we can talk about it another time. The nature of a syllogism is that you can know that it is unsound without necessarily knowing which premise is flawed or whether the structure is valid. And go look up reducto ad absurdum if you need to. I don't need to know what all the other options are to know that this option is not correct, to know that this option is flawed, to know that there's an invalid structure in here. There's about 18 different spots where this particular argument was wrong, and I'll admit, I'm sure there are people out there who are face palming and pounding their head against the wall, and I'm sure there are people who are screaming, no, 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 Matt, you're wrong, and no, 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 Matt, you're wrong. If you actually go to the site and read through the argument, and Russell and I looked this over during the week, this week, there are clear spots where the scope of what you're talking about changes. And I don't know another way to express this other than to say when we're talking about A, and then you talk about A1, and say that it's A, I can't get there.
I have a question.
Yeah, you haven't talked at all.
Well, no, I have a question about what you were just talking about. It seems to me that concept in my mind is based on experiential reality. Like my concepts can only come from my experiences with reality. Generally, I mean, there might be exceptions. I'm not averse to having exceptions, but in general, I conceive of things based on, what I know, what I've learned, how I interact with reality. And unless something's wrong with my brain, I conceive of things based on what I am. Like this is soft, this is whatever. The apple is red. I mean, I conceive based on what I perceive and also how I think about it in a lot of ways, the way I was raised, or, so you make observations about things around you.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that the absolutes transcend my reality, my universe, or whatever, but at the same time, my experience with reality thus far is that it is an attribute of all things, that they are what they are and they're not what they're not. And if they're not anything, like the empty jar, like the non-existent die, are non-existent die, and they're not non-existent die.
Yeah, the thing that's a bit of induction. But that's because I've seen this so many times, it seems to be like a good rule of thumb thing.
Now,
the thing about these laws being absolutes is that the laws themselves can be subject, like A equals A.
Right.
You can take A equals A equals A equals A.
Right.
And I realize that's probably confusing somebody. What they mean is they apply to themselves.
Right.
They are what they are. They are tautologies.
Right.
They are necessarily themselves.
So to me, even though I can conceive of the concept A equals A, for myself as just the small human that I am, it is just simply based on everything I've ever seen that adheres to this.
Yeah.
And then the idea of saying it's transcendent would be, you know, I can't really think of any kind of universe or situation or time or anything that would impact where this wouldn't be true.